Hi, I'm Dr. Veronica, and welcome back to the Listening Lounge. I am so glad you could join me for this very important segment on conscious leadership. And if you know anything about me, you know I am a huge proponent of the fact that I believe everybody leads. So we have an organization really dedicated to that. It's called Life Concepts. And life is that acronym that really stands for leadership is for everyone. And I believe that leadership at its base definition, at how we really work to define leadership, it is simply shared responsibility. And it is the shared responsibility we all have to achieve whatever that collective end is, right? So if that's something relative to an organization, it could be to give great customer service, it could be to operate efficiently as a department, but nonetheless, it is shared responsibility to achieve our collective end. And I think when you define leadership by a definition that is as simple but yet as profound as that, I believe no one is exempt from leadership. I do not believe that leadership is title or position centric. I know most people who are probably listening in today would agree. They would say, Veronica, I've had a leader that had a title and wasn't exactly in my heart and in my mind what I would have qualified as a leader. So I think that we're beyond the day of really believing that titles make leaders or that degrees make leaders or that, quite frankly, followers make leaders. I believe leadership is still a personal enterprise. I believe leadership is a personal mastery skill. And I believe personal leadership is how we begin to move into self-actualization, where we can become the best version of ourselves possible and do the things we envision doing and live the life we envision as well. So I believe leadership is far more than maybe an organizational asset, although I strongly believe in that. So I want to pick up today's conversation to really talk about conscious leadership. And this is a topic that's so near and dear to my heart because I believe we're living in a day where we don't just need our leaders to be maybe compassionate, although that is incredibly important. We need our leaders to be conscious. And if you're one of those people that are watching global affairs and looking at the complexities that face us, you would have to probably agree with me that we want leaders who are in touch. We want leaders who are in touch with what's going on and share in the sentiment. They will use their agency for the contribution to improve those issues that face all of us. And so I want a leader who's in touch, right? I want a leader who's in touch with not just themselves and what they want and all of their goals and all of their aspirations, but I want a leader who's in touch with where the world is and who at a moment's notice can comprehend how their role and their responsibility might affect change in a really positive way. So if we talk about conscious leadership, I'm not really interested in defining it for you per se, but I want to maybe differentiate it in a way that maybe will help you get closer to understanding how we might define it. So first of all, I believe conscious leadership involves a massive level of self-awareness, but I believe it's where social awareness and this concept of personal accountability really do kind of intersect. So social awareness meets personal responsibility. And I believe that conscious leaders have to be, have to have a very strong humanitarian core, which means you have to understand that what happens to one of us happens to all of us. So a strong humanitarian core. I believe that personal accountability and that humanitarianism are critical as an underlying facet of conscious leadership. I believe conscious leaders take responsibility for their actions, decisions, the impact of those decisions on individuals, organizations, and society at large. I believe they lead by example, modeling ethical behavior and integrity. Okay? Second of all, I believe that conscious leaders are empathetic leaders. They are leaders that have a strong sense of connectedness. And not just the people who are on their team. I believe they have a sense that they're connected across the board to people who may or may not serve on their team, the people outside of their organization, the people outside of their family. I believe they have a sense of connectedness, interconnectedness. Now, I believe that what this means is that they recognize that success is best achieved through collaboration and inclusivity. I believe conscious leaders value very diverse perspectives. I believe they actively engage people who don't think like them, who might not share their opinion. but I believe they foster a real sense of belonging and a sense of shared purpose. I believe that they realize that in diversity is where most of the solutions to our problems lie. Thirdly, I believe that conscious leaders are wonderfully ethical and moral in their behavior. So this isn't just about, how do I behave in a way that creates positive, sustainable change. I believe that they're conscious in their choices. I believe they're conscious in their decision making, and they're motivated by our collective good, not just making decisions about what best serves them. Conscious leaders are motivated by what is good for us all. They prioritize win-win outcomes. Conscious leaders are incredibly motivated by our collective good. They prioritize win-win outcomes, seeking solutions that benefit all key stakeholders rather than the zero-sum game approaches. So I believe these leaders make decisions not just in what's best for them, not just what will serve them, or not just based on their own individual goals, but they're working for all of us. They're working for our collective good. I believe conscious leadership aims to create both sustainable, positive outcomes for everyone, right? For individuals, organizations, for the broader community, obviously for the larger global community. And lastly, if I'm differentiating these and I'm just kind of walking down what I believe the difference is in maybe other types of leadership in relation to, maybe the styles or preferences or approaches to leadership, I'm just giving you how I would differentiate a conscious leader. Now, the last one, and this is probably the one I'm going to rest on, and it certainly is the one I'm probably the most passionate about, is that leaders, conscious leaders, understand the importance of their personal agency and the value of their contribution. Let me say that again. Conscious leaders understand the value of their personal agency and the contribution that they can make toward proactive, toward, solution-centric ideas, toward improving the way things are, toward setting new standards. So I believe that personal agency is kind of that proactive, self-directed action that influences, and impacts positive change, desired change. Conscious leaders are not just socially aware, but I believe they're committed to addressing global world challenges. They're capable of really supporting environmental sustainability, social justice, ethical business practice. And I believe that this personal agency can be exercised by anyone at any level, right? I don't believe you have to have a degree for this. Sometimes just knowing that my personal agency can make a difference, my personal agency should be exercised in such a way that I can be a part of solving some of the issues that really do face us. So let me speak for a few minutes about this concept of personal agency and contribution. Remember I said this is by far my favorite out of the 4 differentiators I'm giving you. So for me, if I break this down a little bit, this is really important because I believe that conscious leadership, and for me, I practice this, right? So this isn't something I'm teaching that I'm not living, but I'll tell you what, for me personally, how these kind of maybe break down this idea of personal agency so you can hear, and maybe you can be determining if this is already where you're playing, right? One of them is I believe that conscious leaders have an innate capacity, right, to comprehend the significance and the relevance of a moment. And not just that, but they can determine how their role and their unique responsibility can actually relate or support what's going on. So I'm going to say that again. So it's really about having an understanding, like to be able to comprehend the significance and the relevance of a moment. So that's a little more than just working on being present. You have to be able to connect some dots around what's happening around you, how your unique gifts and your unique talents and strengths might be a service, right? Might be of service right now based on this unique moment. So I think it's about comprehending that. I think conscious leaders comprehend the significance and relevance of a moment, and they're willing to use their role and to step up and serve responsibly as it relates to that moment. Secondly, I believe that not only are they sensitive to this idea of interconnectedness, but I think they're constantly looking for deeper meaning to the things that are happening around them. Because it's so easy to assume that we know, right? And maybe that the way we perceive it is right, or maybe it's so easy to look at it as, kind of a one-dimensional message. And maybe there's so much more going on here. Maybe there's a deeper meaning. Maybe there's a deeper reason. And so it's important that conscious leaders are able to kind of connect the dots, right? And arrive at a deeper meaning. And then that really informs them about how they want to show up, what their unique role of contribution might be. Thirdly, for me, and this has been a really big one over the last 4 years, is what I would call an evolving perspective. I believe an evolving perspective can only arise when we continue to evolve as individuals on a personal level. I believe that our perspective it should be dynamic. It should not be static, right? We should be demonstrating this continuous willingness to learn, grow, and even change. We should be open-minded to the opinions, perspectives of other people, and not so connected to our own ideas and our own beliefs. So I believe you need an evolving perspective to be a conscious leader. And finally, I think I would ask that conscious leaders have a participatory approach, right? And all I'm doing is talking to this final one about personal agency and contribution, right? We've talked about the other three, but when it comes to personal agency and contribution, I wanted to break this down a little further. And the last one is really around participatory approach. Because I believe conscious leaders participate. I believe they are not observers. They don't stand on the sidelines. They don't look to throw blame or shade, but they're really interested in participating. And they use their agency, right? The comprehension of the moment, that evolving perspective. They use all of that, the connectedness of this moment to step up. And when they step up and they do so with an amazing commitment to see lasting, productive change. So that participatory approach is a big thing. I believe that conscious leaders look for valuable ways to commit and contribute to desired change. And so maybe I'll end by saying this today because, I'm going to continue on this topic for the next Listening Lounge. I'm going to be talking a lot about why this is so significant and even how to become more of a conscious leader. But if you ask me maybe why this matters so much as I bring this segment to a close, is I believe, number one, that it will take a collective leadership consciousness to answer the complex and comprehensive global issues that we face today. I really believe it will take a collective leadership consciousness to answer those tremendous issues that have never been before and may never be again, but I believe it's going to take all of us thinking like leaders, behaving as leaders, and collectively working together as leadership to see things change. And so I would like to continue that same frame of thought one step further to say that I believe that what we need is for people to have a sense that leadership is a part of your identity. It's not a job you go do, right? It's not a job description somebody hires you for. It's not something that you go get paid to do. Leadership is an approach to life that means I am here. And I am here to stand in my own strength, talent, capacity, my unique gifts. And I am here to serve, to contribute in a way that the world will know I was here in my absence, right? So it's important that we understand that leadership must become a part of our identity. And consciousness and conscious leadership should be a part of how I begin seeing myself. And when you begin seeing yourself, that self-concept is so critical because out of our self-concept is all of our performance, right? It's very difficult to perform outside of how you see yourself, right? And so leadership is the actualization of potential. You and I have great potential, and I want to be a part of helping you actualize that potential. Whenever you activate and actualize potential, guess what? You and I create amazing, amazing possibility. Well, I happen to believe you and I are in our 4-minute mile moment. You know what that means? That means anything is possible if we will think differently about who we are and think differently about what we can contribute. So this has been Dr. Veronica. Thank you for joining me for the Listening Lounge. I am signing off, but I will see you at the next Listening Lounge. Make plans to attend.